It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And welcome back, Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
Yay.
So how are you guys doing? Okay, there's our answer. Good night, everybody.
I don't think we could top that.
We'll see you next week. Bye.
Oh, it's spoken.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Wow.
Well, I hope everybody out there is doing okay. So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Trying to give Liz a chance to jump in here first if she wants.
I'm going to kick the dogs out. Can't be taking my time. Oh, man. Well, yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of time to sit on my butt. And I've kind of been reading some of my old stuff, things that are kind of light, like Die Kitty Die and that kind of thing. I think I've pretty much gone to trades. It's been a while since I've picked up a single floppy, so I don't know. Maybe something will interest me again. But all of the TV shows right now are coming back for winter seasons. And, of course, Supernatural took their long pause. It's really been weird this season because the episodes haven't been regular, I guess. There's, like, Halloween. They didn't even show Supernatural on Halloween when you'd want to see a Supernatural show, you know. But I guess this being the last season, they're taking a few extra breaks. But they are back, and I don't know. I know we're halfway through, and they have shown us at least 5 or 6 different ways that they can kill these kids. And I'm kind of getting scared. Each one is worse and worse and worse. So I hate to see what the finale is going to be. Because, like, you know, this last episode, God kind of showed them, even if you win, you lose. You know, so they're kind of like, well, damn, what do we do? You know, God's being a dick, so we got to do something with him, but we can't lose everything we love in the process. So, in an interesting conundrum they're in. But also, I got to watch the whole season of Afterlife. Have you guys heard of that one? It's a Netflix series.
Is that the one with Ricky Gervais?
It is.
Okay, I know of it.
He's kind of been real popular this last couple of weeks. I don't know why.
Because he hosted some dumb awards show or something.
Yeah, he did. But they've been throwing Afterlife out. And I was like, you know, I haven't really watched a lot on Netflix here lately. And so I went and checked that one out. And I have to keep telling myself what British comedy and American comedy are sometimes two totally different things. Sometimes their comedies, I guess people would say, is a little bit more of a drier humor than our, you know, in your face. Let me explain the whole joke to you, American comedy. You know?
Dick joke after dick joke, yeah.
Yeah. This one was interesting. I would have considered it more of a drama because it's kind of his life after his wife dies of cancer. And he's got to find, you know, just the will to keep going, you know. She leaves him this video, which they start every show off with, kind of like, you know, quit being a dick to everybody, get out of bed, go to work, you know, because she kind of knew the little rut that he would fall into. So it's kind of interesting seeing his grieving process. And like he works with his sister's brother, and it kind of showed him, wow, I have been a dick because I've been so me. I'm hurting, but I never once thought about my brother's hurting too, or my brother-in-law. He lost his sister, and not only that, he's got other messed up things going on in his life. So it was very interesting to see the transformation in him from the beginning of the show to where they left him at the end. I was so scared they were going to kill the dog. Yeah, usually when they make a dog that important, it's usually because they're setting you up for something, But he had said on social media, no, he would never do that. He's very big into animal rights and especially rescue dogs and that kind of thing. So he was like, I would never do that. So you guys don't worry about the dog dying. But it's weird because the dog on the show is the only reason why he hasn't killed himself. He was going to one night and the dog needed to be fed. Another time he went to walk off into the ocean and the dog was like barking and was like, hey, So if it wasn't for the dog, he would have given up. So he's like, no, don't worry about losing the dog. But it's pretty good. I know I made it sound really morbid and depressing. Cancer,
yeah, you did a really good job. Yeah.
Well, and it is called Afterlife, after all. I mean, and it's about somebody, the result of somebody dying. So there's some morbidity to it, sure.
Yep. And I've never lost a spouse, so I couldn't even imagine.
No matter how hard you've tried.
Right.
Wow.
Damn GPS.
Frickin' Google Maps.
But you can almost, you can see the steps of grieving that he's going through on that. So that's pretty cool. And then if you haven't been living under a rock, have you guys seen the new Lock and Key trailer?
I knew there was.
My rock doesn't get that.
You don't get cable, you got the cord, huh?
Hey, we can put an antenna on your rock. It's not that big a deal.
It looks really good. It's already had, I think he said, over 1 million views on it so far. And they've made it look really interesting, but they also have ones where they kind of break the characters down a little bit for you. So people who haven't read Lock and Key can actually step in and watch this, kind of like the way they did with Umbrella Academy. Kind of explain things to you to where you feel like it's not, everybody knows everything that I don't. So that comes out on February 7th. So really excited about that one.
Soon.
I have not seen that one, but I have seen the trailer for October Faction.
Ooh, yes.
That looks good.
That does look good.
Yeah, I need to check that one out too.
Yeah, you really need to, Mikey. Yeah, and that actually starts up here by the time this drops, the first episode's already out. For the first couple of episodes. I'm not sure if they're just dropping a bunch of them at once or what, but I think it comes out late January, so it's real soon on Netflix.
Yeah. Now, see, I don't understand that. Netflix and Hulu and all of them, they got our business because they're like, you guys are tired of episodes, you're tired of commercials, you're tired of waning, and now it's like they're starting to do episodes and to be continued, and it's like, isn't this the whole reason that you guys started a streaming service, or am I just missing something?
Well, and since they did that, they realized that the episodes and waiting and commercials is where the money is.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But sometimes you lose people.
Okay.
Perfect example.
Then wait for the DVDs, I guess, or the Blu-rays. You don't have to worry about the ads and all that.
I don't know if the original series do the DVDs and stuff though.
Oh, they may eventually.
Yeah.
If they're smart.
If they think they can make money at it, they will.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought it was strange that I do that A+ stubs for movies and stuff. They're starting a service now where you can buy digital movies from them. Like when we went and saw Joker, they've now sent me a thing for $5 off where you can now buy the movie from them. And it's like, that's cool, but what happens when they decide this isn't profitable for them? How do I keep my movie? You got to promise me that I still have a copy somewhere.
Yeah, they
And
need to give you the option to download it somehow.
yeah,
That would be nice.
It's one thing if I'm spending a couple of bucks to watch a movie that I'll never watch again.
yeah.
But if I'm spending $15 or so, I want the copy.
You'd like a physical.
Right.
I'd like to have some sort of control over it.
Yeah.
Me too.
Because that is a price of a DVD. Although, I don't know if they do DVDs anymore. It's all Blu-ray.
Yeah. Well, think about it. It would actually be more because, Walmart, you can get them $15-20, and with $5 off, it's still $19, So it's kind of like you're not even giving us that cheap of an option to where, like you said, I'd rather just go to Walmart and pick it up for $20 and have Blu-ray and DVD copy of it. Put it on anything I own.
Yeah, the $5 isn't really saving you anything.
It's not. But I thought that was kind of weird that they were adding that.
Yeah, again, if they think they can make a buck.
Yeah.
They think they can find some suckers out there to give them money. They'll do it.
Yeah.
Why is everyone looking at me?
I guess that's the way it's all going now, though, is digital.
Yeah, it has been for about 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, longer, really, but it's been actually moving away from physical for that long.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got one other thing for you guys. See what your opinion is. Aaron Carter. Do you guys even know who he is?
Name's
The singer?
Yeah, the singer. He calls himself a rapper.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Calls himself a rapper. Well,
Not the Aaron Carter I know of.
Well, I think his brother's more famous, Nick Carter. And I think everybody likes him more because he's not a douchebag like Aaron Carter is, He's been using a picture on the internet to promote his clothing line and his website and everything else, which is a solid black tiger up against a solid white tiger. Beautiful picture. Absolutely gorgeous picture. Well, a Brazilian artist, reached out and said, "Hey, dude, that's my picture you're using. You never even asked me if you can use this."
Oh, boy.
Well, Aaron Carter responds back to him, "You should have taken it as a compliment, you dick." He called him a dick. I'm the one stealing from you, but I'm going to call you a dick.
Yeah.
And
I've seen this interaction, so I know what you're talking about.
Yep. And then threatens to sue the guy because his fan sent him this picture. And he has every right to use it because his fan sent it to him. Now, apparently his fan had went on DeviantArt or wherever this guy's artwork was. If I send somebody a picture of Batman, it doesn't mean that I'm, Tom King and you have the right to that Batman.
Pretty sure Tom King doesn't really even have the right to it, but anyway.
Right. But, there's copyrights and stuff that artists do to their artwork. And, this other guy has full proof that this is my picture, And Aaron Carter's refusing to back down and even is going to sue the guy if he doesn't shut up.
He's going to lose.
Big time.
Well, here's the thing. Like I said, I saw the interaction. He says, "Take me to small claims court," which that's not going to happen. This is a copyright issue. This is going to be the big time.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is the artist did have his signature and all that on the art, which has been removed.
Yep.
Now they're going to have to figure out who did it. They're going to have to prove who did it, but it's been done. So I stumbled upon this, and I was like, and then the thing is his I don't know if his wife or girlfriend or whoever got involved, and she's just as bad as petty as he is. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Y'all are gonna get your ass kicked from one side of the galaxy to the other.
Big time. Well, and see, the big problem is people don't understand. You know, this probably goes back to the fan who sent it to them. But people don't understand that you can't just go on Google and grab any image that you want and use it however you want. You know, there's royalties. There's a difference between stock-free, royalty-free pictures you can use. I have a program through Adobe where I have a library of stock photos that they approve for me to use however I want, you know. But anything outside of that, you got to get really careful, because if you use it, either one, the artist wants to be credited. So if somebody sees it, they can find them and buy things from them. Or two, you have to pay them for that usage. You know,
well, especially if you're making money off of it, which this idiot's trying to do.
Right.
Yep, he's putting it on merch and everything. Like I said, it's a gorgeous picture. If he was smart, he would settle with this guy and, you know, get some new artwork from him. Yeah, instead of calling him a dick. You know? And I think Gail Simone, she was like, wow, he's just a lovely little troll, isn't he? It's like, yeah, pretty much, you know. But it's kind of crazy that he kind of took the, you know, screw you, I'll do what I want because I'm Aaron Carter. And half the people on Twitter are like, who's Aaron Carter?
Good.
Well, I would too if I not known from years before. If he said that he was a rapper to start, I'd go, that's not who I know.
Yeah, he used to be a cute little kid singer, I think. And dated like Lindsay Lohan and even Hilary Duff. So he used to be cute. Now he's just a little punk, you know. But it should be interesting because it seems like artists have the hardest time copyrighting their work and proving that it was theirs.
It's almost to the point where whatever they post, they need to just go automatically watermark it.
Yeah.
Just absolutely everything.
True.
Just say, hey, here's a commission I did for this person, and just watermark the obviously or watermark the digital. Won't do the physical copy, but you know, just to do that because someone's got to take it and then turn around and say it's theirs.
Mm-hmm.
I know local conventions. I've seen quote unquote artists trying to sell prints, and I'm looking at the stuff. I'm like, that can't be your art, because I know who that looks like. That looks like someone, you know, artist A's art style, and then next to it is something that looks like artist B's art style. So either you're really good at mimicking other artists, or you're stealing their work.
Yeah, and most of the time it's stolen, and they believe if they can print it off just like in one color or just a little bit different, then they can claim it as their own. And it's like, no, you can't do that. You know, even I know with like the 3D modeling and stuff that I do, my watermark is inside my work. There's no way to cut my watermark out unless you cut my work out, you know, and then it's kind of crap for you to use anyways. And it's not very noticeable. But if somebody stole my stuff, I could be able to go through there and go, well, there's my watermark inside the work, not on the outside or anything else. This is inside. So I do believe they need to find ways to do that, just a little something that makes it their own, that nobody else would think to either cut out or, you know. But they make it hard that once you say, okay, this was mine, you can file a claim, but then, like I said, the burden of proof is on you. You've got to prove it was yours. You got to prove they stole it, and if not, then sorry about you. You know. So it's hard to copyright artwork, but even at that, like I was saying with artistic freedom, you can. Now I can't copy a Louis Vuitton purse in my game. I can copy the style and I can do colors, but I can't use logos. I can't use the hardware that they use to make them different from everybody else. So you can use the ideal and the basic style, but you can't stitch for stitch rip something off like that, you know. And I'm even weird about having inspiration from real life things, you know, just because you never know. But art is one of those things that our laws haven't caught up yet how to protect them.
Well, a friend of ours has had problems like that too with his artwork.
Yep.
And he's had people take it from his website and, like Thomas says, recolor it, or Liz says, recolor it, or change it somehow and go, oh no, that's mine. And they've been called out on it.
Yeah.
But to get them to actually sit down and say, I'm wrong, is next to impossible.
It is. Because they always believe they have that artistic freedom, you know, and you don't. You do to a certain point, but no, you can't trace and, you know, blatantly copy somebody's work like that.
No. And they need to look into it.
Mm-hmm. I hope he does. I hope he sues his little pants off. With all the legal trouble he's in anyways, you know, I would just find a different picture at this point.
I'm sure the way that blew up, I'm sure there has been some legal reputation reach out to the artist.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Twitter, and the words have been mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It has been a pain in the butt to get on Twitter today because the first ad I see on scrolling down is the AARP awards. These are awards for grown-ups. Have y'all seen this?
No.
And it's I guess it's a award show and all this, and they claim this is awards for a show for grown-ups, and like 2 or 3 images in, I'm seeing Adam Sandler. I'm like, well, you just blew your credibility right there. When has Adam Sandler done a grown-up movie?
But didn't he just win an award for, was it Uncut Gems?
I don't know.
He may have gotten nominated for something. I don't know if he's won anything yet.
And what was the name of the movie he did with David Spade? I know that does not cut it down.
Yeah, it doesn't very much.
that does really, no.
But it's a story where Sandler
I'm sorry.
Makes them die. He just takes them out of the loop and says, I just killed us off so we can be free. I think it's a Netflix movie. So, to me, yeah, he's done some stuff that's adult. Not that I'm a fan of his, but he's done some.
Yeah, I like him. He's the stupid funny I like.
He can be stupid and he can be funny. That's 2 different things.
So who would like to go next?
I will, but that's because I don't have a whole lot. Because I'm mostly, all I've really been doing this week is getting stuff prepped for the next handful of shows that we're doing. So trying to get ducks in a row for like 6 episodes worth of podcast. I have to do research for, and it's fun, but there's a lot of it. So there's a lot of media that to be consumed here. That's all I'm saying. And ordinarily I would talk about it too, but I'm trying to. It's not exactly spoiler territory here, but I'm trying to keep some of it on the down low anyway. Just we don't need it. I mean, it seems weird now that I'm thinking about it. Why wouldn't I just talk about it? But I don't know. Is there a reason why we shouldn't spoil stuff? I mean, does anybody care?
No, I mean that's.
I don't know.
I mean, we've only teased things, so I mean, if you want to go ahead and spoil something, go right ahead.
I honestly don't care one way or the other. It just, I don't know. I feel like I'm copping out by not talking about anything. I sort of feel like I'm letting Liz win. I think that's what the deal is here. But yeah, so we've got a theme planned for February, and I won't go into too much detail. And so there's a few different topics there, and then we've got a bonus thing we're thinking about doing during February as well for something else, which I will talk about at some point. But so I'm just basically doing prep work for that stuff. You know, it's fun, but
cool. Yeah. Especially since I know what you're talking about.
Do you really?
I do. We've probably been watching the same movie.
She's got. Oh, I don't know. Well, maybe one or two of them, but yeah, she's also got a copy of the episode schedule in front of her. So you know. Mm-hmm. And yes, we actually do have. We talked about the Facebook group that we have that's just the four of us, so that we can keep track of all this stuff, because we actually try to keep track of this stuff. It's I don't know. I don't know if we're a little I bet we're more compulsive about it than some podcasts, but not quite as compulsive as others. I figure we're kind of right in the middle on that.
Yeah. Well, it's basically it's for us to discuss things, throw out some ideas, and just that kind of thing. So I mean, it's not like it's anything.
Be prepared too, so we're not all willy-nilly and be like, "What are we talking about?"
You mean so we're not all watching the wrong movie or something?
Right?
Yeah.
The right movie was on this list I'm talking about, by the way. Just saying.
Which I checked like 2, 3, 4 times, and swear to God, that's what it said.
And this was before the good drugs.
Right. Yeah. Oh, man.
But anyway.
But you guys have to admit, you'd rather watch the movie that I watched than the one you have to watch.
No comment.
I like both movies, so yeah. You're on thin ice now.
I still need to go back and watch The Blob. I haven't done that. Instead, for some damn fool reason, I watched the sequel instead, which was a huge mistake, but whatever. I guess I had to make it hard on myself somehow. Whatever.
Well, I mean, you could have watched the 80s remake.
God.
I'm kind of morally opposed to 80s remakes. I mean, so I don't know. I'm not sure I could have. Not without a large group of people and with all of us making fun of it. Just go full on riff tracks with it. I don't know if I could stand to watch an 80s remake of pretty much anything. I have enough trouble watching original 80s movies.
That's what we should do. We should record our own riff track.
God.
You just talked about legal issues, and then you turn around and say about
Touche. Too freaking shay.
But see, if we slow down the movie like a quarter of a second, then it's not really copyrighted that way. That's how they get around it on YouTube.
Most of the time, they just do public domain movies.
Yeah, like Alice in Wonderland. Not the Disney version.
Yeah, no kidding. Not the Disney version. There's no such thing as a public domain Disney movie.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
Okay, well, I mean, you cover the movie side, but, talking about doing riff tracks, we'll get sued there.
Right, we'll have riff tracks come after us. That'd be great.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's any better, but okay.
Does that mean we can get them on for an interview?
We'd have to find a way to make that part of the settlement.
There you go.
And I'm not sure we'd be on the right end of the settlement to be making demands like that either.
That's a good point, too. So, Les, how about you?
I really feel I'm at a point of ceding the floor to the counselor we have, our legal department.
He's outside barging right now.
I read a couple of trades. One was Hero Bear and the Kid, which was a fun story. Also read Evil Heroes, which had me scratching my head. But I also found a copy of Fangoria. And this was from January of last year, 2019. The reason I picked it up is on the cover, it's got He is Risen, and it is an article about Joe Bob Briggs, talking about his program that was...
The Last Drive-In? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love this guy. I think he is so damn funny. I read his articles in the newspaper week after week and just thought he was the funniest thing around. And I tried to explain this to some people, that he had the 3 Bs in movies, that they were the main items for the film. And luckily, I didn't really have to explain them. But I understand he is going to be appearing here in town at the Texas Theater, I think toward the end of this month, for another grand movie, I'm sure. I have attended films that he has appeared at, and it's fun. I got to see Mars Needs Women, which is an all-time favorite bad movie. And if I recall, that's Tommy Kirk is one of the stars in that one. So just to see this article, I had to grab the book. I tried to read it at times, but I could only get about so far into it, so I'm not all the way through the article. I've seen it or read it in parts, but still enjoy it and love to think about what he's done and how he's accomplished it. He's a great crime writer for newspapers, and then he did this as a side as Joe Bob Briggs. John Bloom is the writer, and Joe Bob Briggs is his creation. That if you watch any of his films, any of the films that he was introducing on television, you would want to see him. You would want to see more, that's for sure.
I remember Saturday nights on the movie channel that he did. They had him on, and he would do. It was just one. I don't know if it was one movie or 2 movies, something like that. But yeah, that was my introduction to Joe Bob, and he talked about the 3 Bs and all that. So I could, to this day, I could still remember that set because it was basically like an old-fashioned trailer, and he's sitting in a folding chair, and you got the cowboy shirt on and all that kind of stuff. he's a trip to watch. And yeah, the last drive-in that he's been doing for Shudder for the last couple of years have been wildly successful and popular. I was just looking to see. He was at Texas Frightmares last year. I haven't seen that he's going to be here this year. I thought
is that toward the end of the month?
No, it's the 1st of May.
Okay.
It's the first weekend of May, just like at the big convention.
Yeah, because didn't they do it last year on Free Comic Book Day?
And Free Comic Book.
Didn't we make kind of a stink about that at some point?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, but it's always been like on the first. It's always been the first weekend in May. So it's always been that way. The thing was you had the other big comic book convention happening that weekend as well. I think that was more distinct than.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Than Frightmares. So, but I hadn't seen that he's listed for this year. But I can't imagine him not being there. So. I definitely would like to go to that, especially if he'll be there. Just saying, thank you for all you've done. So, well, one thing I want to point out this last week that I did was I finished up the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover, and I was impressed overall. I thought it was handled real well, considering what they had to do. I mean, I'm watching this and I'm seeing where they're getting it from the source material, but the fact that they were able to compress it and just to where it's only really affecting these number of characters. And still kind of hitting those notes and all that, I was pretty impressed, and especially this past week, because there was two big cameos. Both of them were not lead, and I was impressed, especially the first one. The problem was after the first cameo was on screen, everybody picked up on it. So if you were on social media even 10 minutes after it happened, you're already seeing it. I'm like, God damn it, guys. But the other one, I hadn't really seen anybody, I mean, I've seen some people kind of point it out, but there was really no big to do about it. But I thought it was a really cool moment. But I enjoyed it. I thought overall it was really well done. I wouldn't mind seeing all of those together again, and I know it's being streamed because I have seen advertisements on social media like a ton. So yes, they're streaming them. I understand that, but yeah, I was impressed because it really could have been bad. It could have been mishandled so much that it could have just everybody fallen flat on their face, and they didn't. And there is one thing I really want to point out, and it's something I think I've talked about on the show before. I know I've talked about it in person. One of the injustices in all these years of live action versions of these characters was the injustice to Brandon Routh as Superman. Because Superman Returns, I've said this before, he's not doing Superman, he's doing Christopher Reeve doing Superman, and I thought that was not fair to him. His Kingdom Come version of Superman, you do see glimpses of Chris in there, but it's him. But it's Brandon. And that is so cool. It was so cool to see him actually to do something that was his. And I thought he did a great job. And everybody else seems to have liked it so much that there's people clamoring for a series based off his version of Superman.
Cool.
But I don't think that's going to happen because Brandon has come out and say, this helps me close the book on this. So that kind of sounds like, maybe that's done. And plus the fact they've already announced a Superman and Lois series based off the Tyler, is it Tyler Hoechlin, who's on the Supergirl series. They're spinning him off into their own show. So, but who knows? I enjoyed it. I really did. All the cameos, all the nods to the previous movies and TV shows were great. The story was handled pretty well. I enjoyed it, definitely.
Cool. I was hoping they would pull it off somehow.
Well, like I said, it really could have gone bad, because you now know what that story is like, and you're going, as expansive, as massive as that story is, to compress it into 5-hour-long episodes dealing with a certain number of people and then trying to get from point A to point B. It could have been pretty dicey.
It's a challenge, that's for sure. But I mean, honestly, I think I don't know how popular this opinion is going to be, but narrowing that down, I mean, you can't argue with the scope having to be what it was for what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
But all the stuff that they tried to dump into that story, I honestly think it would not. I mean, you could screw it up by narrowing down the focus of it somewhat, but you can also, I think it would be just as easy to actually do it well, if not even improve on it a little bit, because there's just so much going on in there. I mean, it gets to be a drag to read after a while because it's just nonstop. And I mean, some of it is, honestly, you just get to where there's just little things drawn into the corners of panels that it just makes it, I don't know. I hesitate to call the story overwhelming, but there's a lot going on. And so to maybe kind of narrow and refine the focus a little bit, I can see that being a really good thing in a lot of ways. I mean, yes, it could go very wrong, but I think at least I like to think, I don't watch the shows, but I'd like to think they're coming at it from a perspective where they have specific characters that they have to take care of and cover. They can't just, there's some, but a lot of the rest of that stuff you can leave out. And still, I hesitate to say it's easier to maintain the overall scope of that story with TV than it is with a comic book. But in a way, it might be, because there's just other, I mean, there's visual ways to tell a story that are different. I mean, there are similarities because you've got visuals with comics that like you wouldn't have with a novel, but there's different ways to tell stories that I mean, honestly, motion is a big thing. So you can show things blowing up without having to have large, weird landscape type panels. I'm not sure I'm making any sense at this point, but I can easily see it being done really well. And I mean, obviously that's the hope anyway, because they want it to work. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that you liked it.
Yeah. And this is coming from someone who's not been watching the shows. I had stopped watching some of them for a long time. So some of the characters popped up. I'm like, I have no freaking idea who you are. So, but if it helped the ones who've been there, show, hey, they're here, they're doing something, that kind of thing. That's cool. But it didn't. It really didn't affect me. I was still able to understand what was going on, and there were some great moments. There was stuff that really kind of it was just well done.
Cool.
That is cool.
I can't believe you guys haven't watched it. I can understand Mike, but come on, guys.
I think Brandon has.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Before we get into this week's discussion, we want to point out that we have our monthly meet and gab coming up in the not too distant future. It's actually going to be Saturday, February 8th. If you're not familiar with what meet and gab is, it is our monthly event where if y'all want to come join us, you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, kind of talk about stuff that's going on in the world, universe of geekdom. We're usually at Wing City, which is located at 1456 Beltline Road in Garland, and the zip is 75044. And we usually meet about 7 o'clock, and we'll talk about anything that y'all want to talk about, and we usually have a good time and good food. And if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, come check us out, say hi. We'd love to see you and talk to you and all that. We're also still taking comics for Comics for Kids. That's the charity that we're working with that delivers all ages and teen comics to kids who are in hospitals and cancer centers. So we have some all ages or teen comics that are new or like new and like to donate them. Bring them up to the place, and we'll be happy to forward them on. If you'd like more information, you can go to the website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Click on the CV4K link, and there's information regarding the charity. And if you'd like to make a financial donation to them, which of course would go to help ship comics across the United States and Canada, there's a link there. There's also a link to their store. They have certain comics that have exclusive variant covers just for the charity, as well as a new coloring book featuring original art from some pretty big names in the comic industry. So definitely check them out. And since you're on the website, go to the events page. You can see more information for our meet and gabs. We also have a Facebook set up. So if you're following us on Facebook, check that out. Or if you're not following us on Facebook, then follow us on Facebook and then you can check it out. So see you there. Okay. It was brought to my attention not too long ago that a particular production studio is celebrating its 70th anniversary. And when I started kind of doing some research on it, I was going, oh my God, the influence this production studio had on mostly TV from the 50s, 60s, even 70s. And the production company I am talking about is Desilu, which was named after Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. And so I thought we should spend some time to kind of talk about this company and definitely give it the respect that it deserves for what it has done. So I'm going to open up the floor to Mikey.
Me?
You?
Yay, Mike.
Yay!
I think I know why he's picking on me.
Yeah.
I think
And you're probably right.
he's picking on me because, and I can't say it's the only popular TV show that came out of that production studio, but one of the best known series is Star Trek. They were the ones that gave Gene Roddenberry the green light to make not only one but two pilot episodes for a TV series, which doesn't happen often. It didn't happen often then. It doesn't happen often now, to get two shots at it like that. But they believed in it enough to back him up. So, and like I said, it's clearly not the only major. I was looking at this list, and it's ridiculous how many major TV series came out of Desilu production.
Yeah.
It's nuts. I mean, and not the least of which was I Love Lucy, of course. But dang, the list just goes on and on. I mean, early shows, there were just a ton. I mean, you've got, and all up and down the spectrum too, all kinds of different genres. There were comedies, there were mystery shows, there were cop shows, there were westerns. Lucy and Desi did their own variety show for a while.
A couple of different ones.
Yeah. They did a show based on Wyatt Earp called The Life and Legend of Wyatt Earp.
Another popular one, Mission Impossible.
Oh, yeah. Very popular. They had a hand in Mannix, another popular cop show. They went in with Ringling Brothers Circus to do The Greatest Show on Earth. Lucy did another show of her own called The Lucy Show. They had a hand in the original Untouchables TV series. It's just nuts. And this is on, well, I was going to say on a whole long list of networks. Back then there were 3, so it wasn't really a long list of networks, but stuff on all 3 networks pretty much all the time. I had no idea they were as big as they were. I mean, I knew they were because of Star Trek, so it kind of never occurred to me that they did as much as they did in the 50s and 60s. And also, I don't know how surprising it will be, but Lucille Ball ran the thing for a long time by herself, especially after she and Desi divorced. She bought him out. She bought his shares out and just took over and started running the thing. While she's starring in TV shows. I mean,
she had a big plate.
Yeah. A lot of stuff going on.
You mentioned they produced or distributed, but the ones that were just filmed there is equally impressive.
Oh yeah, their physical studio. There's an even longer list of just shows. I mean, really popular, really famous shows, stuff that everybody's heard of. I mean,
they're still being shown today.
She had 33 recording studios, which made them the largest independently owned TV movie production company. It was MCA until MCA bought Universal Pictures, and then they were no longer independently owned.
Right.
33 soundstage. That's a lot of movies and stuff going on.
Uh-huh.
Which I think is actually now Paramount.
Yeah, eventually Paramount bought them out.
Mm-hmm.
Or they and another company, Gulf and Western, merged into what became Paramount eventually. Which now is kind of, I can't remember if CBS owns Paramount or if Paramount owns CBS, but
I think CBS owns Paramount because they own all of the Desilu productions after 1960.
Yeah.
I look at this list, and I was around when it first started.
Barely.
The list, huh?
Barely. I mean, they kind of started getting credited in like 1950. So.
Yeah, that's the year I was born.
Right.
But I look at the list and I'm still amazed at all these shows I remember. Of course, I Love Lucy, and Our Miss Brooks, December Bride, The Life and Legend. I've still watched that on Stars Western. The Walter Winchell File. Whirlybirds, the cop show from Helicopters was great. The Texan, which was Rory Calhoun, and Southern Untouchables, of course, Harrigan and Son. It just brings back so many memories. And the idea of all this being produced by them, then those that filmed it, Desilu, are as long or as just about as long as the production, and those are memorable. Everything from Jack Benny to My Three Sons to Gomer Pyle, it just makes me spin. My head is spinning, trying to step away from this because it's just overpowering as to what they produced and what they filmed at Desilu and things that I recall. I'm so happy that I got to know of these because they are pretty strong. Even Man with the Camera was big time.
And one other thing, Desilu also did Desilu Sales, which distributed J Ward Productions, which is Rocky and Bullwinkle, Fractured Fairy Tales, all the animation at that point came out of J Ward Productions, so she even had a hand in that too. And I say she only because when Desilu was first formed, she pretty much told Ricky, or Desi, I want nothing to do with the business end of this. I don't have time for this. But I've done enough radio, I've done enough, movies and everything else to where I kind of know what the audience wants. So he was like, okay, pretty much anything artistic that came out of that studio, she had her finger on it. She was the one who approved it. She was the one who made it work, and he was the one who signed the checks. He gets a lot of credit, but amazing.
Well, and I mean, in all fairness, and I'm not trying to just stand up for the dude here. I'm not at all, but Desi didn't really have any training in like business matters, so he kind of had to figure it all out on his own.
He didn't.
And so I'm not trying to take any credit away from Lucy, but I tend to give Desi a little credit just for keeping the business going for 10 years with no training at all.
They were an amazing team. She knew she couldn't do what he could do, and he knew he couldn't do what she could do. So originally, Desilu was formed because she wanted to take her radio show, My Favorite Husband, and make it into a TV show, which of course we all know as I Love Lucy. And Ricky, not knowing the business end of it and everything else, not only did he want it to be a live syndication, he wanted to be able to have the films and rerun it. So that way, that would tap into another mainstream for reruns. Well, at the time when they were doing live TV, those episodes were not saved. They were refilmed over and refilmed over. And that's why a lot of times today we get the lost episodes of. There will never be a lost episode of I Love Lucy because Ricky or Desi was so smart in that sense because he stepped in and he said, okay, not only do we want to do this show, we want to use multiple cameras to shoot this show, which really wasn't the first. People say he was the first, but he wasn't. He was one of the first to use that technology to shoot a show. But not only did he want all the cameras there, he wanted the audience there. And, at first they were like, well, we don't know if we can pay for that, and he said that was fine. Desilu, they made this company to do this. we'll take over the extra cost of the extra cameras and the extra sound room for the state, for the audience and that kind of thing. But I want 100% ownership of the films. So you'll get your money when we do the live, just like they would have anyways. But any reruns and everything else went straight to Desilu. They owned the films. So even to this day, CBS, they still rerun those shows, which strictly goes into the, Arnaz estate or whatever. So he was genius in that. But it was kind of one of those blind luck things. He became a very good businessman, but you were right. When he started out, nothing, And Hollywood's kind of tough to learn in, Well, they went on with I Love Lucy, and 1960s comes up. 1960, Lucy catches Desi. He's sleeping around again. So she's like, you know what? Why? Why am I even messing with you? Why do I even need you? I've, basically been doing all of this while you've been running around, so let me buy you. And he was like, okay, well, they were still great friends, still a great team. He just couldn't stay faithful to her. So he allowed her to buy him out. They remained friends and everything else. But from 1960 on, she was not only president of the company, she was CEO of the company, and she was doing her own show. So she was one of the most powerful women in Hollywood at the time, and definitely the first woman to have her own company that large, So she's breaking molds and standards left and right, Just the work that she did on her TV show alone broke all kinds of molds of the time period at that time, and the way a woman was supposed to talk to a man, and the way their bedrooms were set up, everything was, this is the way it's going to be done, So it woo. But it's really is hard to talk about Desilu without talking about Lucy because, for one, she was half of that. But I think even more so, it was the amount of talent you guys saw come out of there was because she was able to recognize that and go, you know what? I think I want to give this a chance. Do you know how many studios passed on Star Trek before she got it and read it?
A lot.
A lot. Nobody believed that anybody wanted to watch a space show. And she was the first one to go, you know what? Yes, they will. If we film this right and do this right, then they will. They'll like this. And she was right. They loved it.
Yep. They just needed somebody to realize that it really wasn't that different from what they were doing.
Yep.
And if it could be written well, it would work. And by golly, it did.
Yep. But not only written well at the time, with Ricky and everything else, they were a production company that was very tapped into the best technology that they had at the time. Even the shooting with the multiple cameras, it was expensive, so not a lot of people did it. There was really, up until that point, there was no reason to save a TV show,
Right.
Everybody had watched it once, and,
Yeah, we actually kind of talked about that when we talked about Vampira in the past. They didn't record those shows.
Mm-mm.
You can't find them. They don't exist.
No. There's something re-recorded over it. Mm-hmm. And I think he also had something to do with the way these films were preserved. So later on, they could be reused. And of course, since then, they've been digitally masterized and everything else. But I Love Lucy is one of the one shows that remains in reruns since the day it ended. It's still in reruns. All countries over the world, I think they said in like 58 different languages. So no matter where you go in the world, everybody knows who I Love Lucy is. Even now. You can flip on the TV and find I Love Lucy somewhere, Yep. But I just think it took a lot of, for a company to be that successful at the time, I'm glad she had the eye she had for a talent in art.
And she was truly talented.
She was.
No two ways about that.
Mm-hmm.
She could do serious, she could do slapstick, and she knew exactly how to make it work.
Yep. And it's funny because in real life, I Love Lucy, the roles were reversed, especially when they first got together. He was a Cuban band leader who didn't know very much English, didn't have a lot of money to his name. And here she is. She's already been in movies, doing radio. She was the successful one. And the TV, of course, in the time period, you can't have a woman more successful than the man, But they said that they didn't think, when she reversed the roles, they didn't think that the audience would buy it. That Lucy, because she had been in a lot of movies and TV at the time, would be the type of person to beg. But see, to me, that's what made it funny. It kind of would have been, I don't know if it would have been funny with Ricky being the one begging for, put me in the show.
Well, and if you want to I'm not sure they looked at it this way at the time, but in all honesty, her role in that show was the one that required the acting skill.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Desi couldn't act, but the way it was set up, Desi didn't have to act all that much.
He was a straight man.
He was a straight man. All he had to do was keep a straight face and just raise his voice a little bit every so often.
Yeah.
Lucy was the one having to do all the work.
And she did. Yep.
And she pulled it off brilliantly.
But I think she did it in a good way that still respected her husband. And we always got a song from him that always showcased that he did have talent,
Oh, yeah.
But
no doubt about it. I'm not knocking him.
I'm not either. I'm just saying the way the show was set up, she, even in life and with her running around cheating on her, she always put him first in everything. That's why if you read a lot of her background, it's just heartbreaking what he did to her. And she allowed him to, because they had kids together and everything else. And it was in and out, in and out. And to the day she died, she was like, I'll always love him. He was the love of my life. And they were a great team, absolutely great team. When the show finally started going downhill was when they were starting to get rocky with their marriage. And people are like, you could feel it on the set. It was just so uncomfortable. I think her and Joan Crawford got into it on the set because it was bad.
Damn.
So it kind of, with everybody growing up with Lucy, pretty much America watched her marriage fall apart and how hard she tried to keep it together. And, if I can just keep him acting, if I can just keep him in front of the cameras, he'll be happy. He'll quit doing this. And just, no matter how hard she pushed, it just wasn't good enough,
Well, sometimes you just can't control it.
No, you can't.
He's got to pull his share too. And
You do. Yep. But had they have not come together, so much would have been missed out on.
Yep. Who knows if she'd have ever gotten to that position without him? Unfortunately, just because of the way the way society, I guess is the best way to put it, was back then. If she hadn't have been able to stand next to him,
they wouldn't have taken her serious.
They would have never let her stand on her own.
No. But even we were talking the other night about Blacklist in Hollywood, and Lucy was actually one of the ones that was thrown on the. Were they calling it a blacklist or was it a red list where they were labeling actors as communists and pretty much ruined you if they did.
It was blacklist.
And she was registered.
She was, yep. But she had signed up for the Communist Party for her grandfather. And I think at the time he had passed away, and she's like, I never really even thought about it. He had asked me to do it. I did it so long ago. But I think had America at the time not been in love with her, and it was America's sweetheart, she wouldn't have survived that the way that a lot of actors went down in that mess. So I think it was good that she did have this kind of stuff behind her, and she was charismatic the way she was, or they would have ate her alive, you know?
Like they did so many others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it ruined a lot of them.
It did.
It kind of, I know it's wrong to compare the two, but it kind of reminded me of the witch trials, because even if you weren't, it was hard to prove that you weren't. You know, how do you prove something you're not?
Right.
So, scary time. Like I said, thank God she was America's sweetheart, or I don't think she would have came out of that unscathed.
Mm-hmm.
Or her company and everything, too. She would have lost everything.
For a start, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And all it took, I mean, even like today, all it takes is someone pointing a finger, you know?
But you got to remember, if you point your finger at somebody, there are 4 others pointing back at you.
Yep.
That depends on which finger you're pointing.
And I think, too, what helped her is she never even tried to deny it. You know? She was so open and honest about it and was like, here, yeah, you know, here's what I did. Yeah, that's my signature. And, you know, do I believe that? No, you know.
Yep.
I got your reference there, Mike.
Oh, good.
How about you, Thomas? What do you have to say?
I mean, I pretty much said what I was so impressed with everything that she did and what he did. You talked about this is actually the first show that had a live studio audience.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing with the camera angles or the multiple cameras. It's so mind blowing. And for her to have had the influence on several shows, it's just, you know, you say her name and we immediately think of the comedy.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really, I don't think we give her enough credit for everything else she did. You know, in 50s Hollywood, she was, like you said, the most powerful woman. She was the first one to be running a production company, or in the 50s and 60s, or more 60s since Desi was out.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Because just the way the mentality was, and to unfortunately still is. I mean, you're still kind of battling that mentality. So
yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, she's got a lot of movies and stuff definitely under her belt. I said even before, you know, Ricky, there was all kinds of. I'm drawing a blank. I'm so disappointed in myself right now. I Love Lucy probably accounts to probably about a third of my collection. And I mean, that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of my collection. It's just strictly I Love Lucy. To me, she's always been a role model, a hero. As a young girl, to see someone who could stand up and go, you know what? I don't have to listen to you, and then make you laugh in the same sentence. It was just so. I loved her. I love Lucy. So I always, you know, she was just so funny, and you know, I hate to keep going, but the time period. If you take and look at her things and then now imagine that it's 1954, 1955, you know, women weren't really supposed to talk back to their husbands, let alone undermine them after they've told them no, and sneak behind their back and pretty much do what they want to anyways. That was unheard of. You know, you just didn't do that. And then to make it funny on top of that, it was just like, wow, you know. But it was kind of a reality show for them. They allowed America into their lives, and I think they said that the birth of little Ricky was the most watched episode ever. Everybody wanted to know what she had, you know.
Yeah.
Which then they changed the sex for the TV show. But hey, because I think she had she had Lucy first, and then she had Desi Jr. But even with her pregnancy, they couldn't say the P word on TV. They couldn't say she was pregnant.
Right.
Isn't that crazy? You can't say that she's pregnant? I mean, she didn't swallow a beach ball. But just even ways they found around, you know, to bystep that and, you know.
Well, that's a product of the times, too.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at Dick Van Dyke Show,
Mm-hmm.
they had separate beds. There were...
Well, on the same pattern as I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of shows followed that pattern after Lucy.
Yeah, she eventually pushed their beds together. But if you ever notice in the episodes that the beds are pushed together, they're not made together. It still looks, you know, that it's
still obviously two beds.
Yes, it is. And I don't know how she would have got pregnant if they didn't sleep in the same bed, but, you know, you weren't supposed to draw it out for the viewer.
Right. You don't talk about that. There's things you don't talk about, and especially in the 1950s. And
Yeah.
it's kind of sad how repressed American society was in the 50s, but whatever. That's probably a different show.
Yeah. But see, it was things like this that changed that. That kind of, hey, let me shake you out of your shell a little bit, you know? And women in comedy, I bet they can all look back and thank her for the strides that she made and the glass ceilings that she broke for them, you know? Carol Burnett was definitely, she's always looked up to Lucy as one of her mentors. And to this day, even after Lucy passed away, which is kind of crazy, she passed away on Carol Burnett's birthday. And she said she got home that day, and there's this beautiful bouquet of flowers from Lucy for her. And every year, she gets flowers from Lucy, which I thought was so sweet. And then you wonder, how do they make a deal like that? How do you find a florist that you know is going to be around for the next 20 years?
You don't. You leave a production company behind, and part of the deal is that they arrange it. I mean, it's people now arranging it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just assume the florist is going to keep it up, because where's the money coming from?
Yeah. See, I would, just out of the thought that someone thought to do that for someone, you know, that people thought that when she was at Desilu, especially after she took over, she wanted Carol Burnett to come over and do a show with her. And at the time, Carol Burnett was being shopped for her own variety show, which later on became the Carol Burnett Show. And she told her, I would love to. I just don't have time to. And she went on and did, you know, of course, great things with the Carol Burnett Show. And everyone's like, oh, they're not friends anymore. And she's like, no, that never upset Lucy. Lucy always wanted me to be the best. And if it wasn't with her, she wanted me, you know, that wasn't the best deal for me. And she knew it wasn't. So she wasn't mad at her friend for doing better, you know, which I thought that's pretty big of her too, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, but if she could if she was smart enough to be able to run a business like she did and run a studio like she did, she's smart enough to look at that deal and go, that's way better than I can do.
Yep.
And
you need to take
it. Right. Totally.
Yep. But they also said that she had her mean side. I think Joan Collins, you know, said that she was the first girl to call her a bitch on stage. You know? Which, of course, Collins didn't take offense to, but, you know, Vivian, of course, never could be smaller than her. So she had to wear like padded clothes and stuff. And I think Vivian was actually younger than her too, and they played her up to be older than Lucy.
Really? I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize that. That's interesting.
Yep. Because originally, the guy who plays Fred was supposed to be somebody different. God, I'm wanting to say Holden. I could be wrong on that. But she had worked with Farley before on a radio show, and she knew he was a drunk. So she didn't know if she wanted him to play the part as Fred. And so when her first guy fell out, he came to her and was like, look, I'll quit drinking. I'll clean myself up. But, you got to give me a chance. And she said, okay. Of course, he was a lot older than what she had wanted. And she had already had Vivian Vance in place. So she was like, okay, we'll make her older to kind of fit the older couple. That they were the younger couple and they would be the olders. But yeah, originally they were supposed to have neighbors. The landlords were supposed to be about the same age they were.
Interesting.
So there was a few things you could see as petty, but hey, it's her show. She's signing the paycheck. You want me to wear a bustle? I'll wear a bustle.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, hindsight, right? I mean,
yeah,
it worked.
It worked. She kept him in work for, 7 years that it went on?
Yeah. 7 pretty dang successful years at that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for Vivian, it was a lot more than that, because Vivian was her sidekick on a couple of the other series.
That's right. Here Comes Lucy and the Lucille Ball Show. One, she was a roommate, and the other one, didn't she work with her or something?
Something.
And the guy, Mr. Mooney, I think he was the one, now that you say that, I think he was the one who was originally supposed to be Fred.
Gail Gordon?
Yeah, so it was Gordon, not Holden. But he was doing something else at the time that I Love Lucy came out.
Poor bastard.
Right? Well, that's probably why he jumped on the second show. He's like, heck yeah, I missed out the first time. But I think they were in radio together. A lot of her guest stars and, golly, that show had so many guest stars, were people who she had worked with previously and stuff. Her and Bob Hope had done a couple of movies together.
Mm-hmm.
I think her and William Holden had done a movie together.
I'm going to say one thing, though. Where did they get, and I know you say that it was live performance, but there was a soundtrack there, too.
Mm-hmm.
There was a laugh track.
There was.
Because if you watch any episode, there is a certain laugh you will hear in the crowd.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
It's him, that... It's Ricky. Well, see, that was part of the...
To me, it's the high-pitched female that's laughing. And it just drives me freaking crazy.
See, part of that was trying to, when they introduced the live studio audience, they had to have something to buffer. It was kind of crazy. They wanted the live audience, but you didn't want to hear a lot of the live audience. So I guess that's why they put the laugh track in, for one, to let people know, hey, you laugh now, but another to kind of drown out some of the noise that they were getting from having an audience there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're supplementing, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And they might also not laugh when you want them to.
Yeah.
Right.
And so you're having to sort of craft the laughter, probably more than you would think. I believe it.
True.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about the production side of this, this is I am a little mind blown at who their main photographer was. It was Carl Freund.
Mm-hmm.
And if by some strange miraculous reason, for some strange miraculous reason, you're not familiar with the name Carl Freund, he was originally from Germany. He was a German cinematographer. The other two major things that he's really well known for are the movie Metropolis and the movie Dracula. He was the main photographer on both of those. Metropolis is widely regarded as one of the most visually striking silent films ever. And, well, you don't listen to our show without knowing what Dracula is. But yeah, and he was the guy in charge of the camera work on I Love Lucy. That, to me, my mind is blown. I'm just like, that's amazing. No wonder that show looks so damn good. And no wonder they could figure out how to make the multiple cameras work. I mean, geez, they had this master cinematographer who'd been making films for 30 years at least, working on the show. Okay, makes sense to me now, you know?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I think they had a lot of the best working on their show, though. That's what made it so successful. I know I'm usually the one to bring this up, but the makeup artist at the time for their show was Max Factor. Well, that's who they listed, was Max Factor. But actually the artist was Hal King, which is Max Factor's brother-in-law. Is it his brother-in-law or his brother? I want to say it was his brother-in-law. So even that was a pretty big name in the makeup world at the time to have on your set, you know, especially Max Factor, which gave her iconic red hair, because originally Lucy is a brunette, but she's also gorgeous as a blonde, which I think is why a lot of people don't recognize her in her movies. I think until I Love Lucy, that's when she became the redhead, not... And the red that they used on her hair was a special formula made up. They kept this thing in a safe with the recipe, and nobody could use that but her for her hair.
Oh, I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
That's honestly, that's just smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You could get close, but you couldn't get the exact Lucy red. I don't even think today you could get Lucy red.
Oh, come on. How long's she been gone? I bet you can do it now.
I don't know.
Well, and
that's kind of like one of those secrets, you know.
And honestly,
they probably
at this point,
buried it.
There are so many. You can get such a wide variety of shades of red for that. What would be the point? But back then, it would have been a big deal.
But you know, without getting too technical, red is one of the hardest colors to dye your hair.
Oh yeah.
It's awful. I can't have red hair because I have blonde pigment in my hair, and it will always turn pink, or it just washes right out. So red is one of the hardest colors you can get in your hair, and hers looks natural. Bitch.
Well, we got a title for this episode.
throwing down a little payback on behalf of Joan Collins here. Jeez.
Yeah. Lord knows I have tried to get Lucy red hair.
Yeah, well, they make wigs too, and it's probably easier.
Yeah, a whole lot easier.
In fact, I remember at work there was somebody they had back at Halloween we had a trick or treating thing where people are encouraged to bring their kids up to work, and they give them candy and stuff. There was this one little girl who I swear couldn't have been, certainly not more than 3. I swear she was not more than 2. She was dressed up as Lucy.
Aww.
With a little red wig and everything. It was, I regret not getting a picture of that kid.
How cute.
It was really cute.
That is cute. Yeah, I definitely think she'll be around for a lot more generations to come. Just going back to, once again, how smart Desi was to set it up the way that he did with the reruns. And
yep, they did a lot for the syndication process and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they invented it or not, they certainly pioneered it.
I think they set a bar. And I think with that bar, you knew anything that Desilu was printed on was going to be good. And even if the script was crap, it was going to be filmed really good. And it was going to have good effects and sound and, all the technical part of it was going to be great.
Yep.
Okay, well, final thoughts?
Go watch everything that Desilu Studios ever put out.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all good.
There's
You
a lot
won't
of,
be disappointed.
There's a lot of good stuff in there, though. I mean, and it's,
Mhm.
honestly, you've probably seen a lot of it already.
And just
There's
didn't
just so
realize
much
it.
of it, yeah, and didn't realize that it was Desilu.
Yeah. And I do know that CBS owns all of the stuff now.
Yeah.
And I'm wanting to say I read somewhere that I Love Lucy is the only thing that still has the Desilu logo on it.
Now that you mention it, I can't remember if the Blu-ray set of Star Trek does. I'm not sure it does.
I think it's all been imprinted with.
They're taking off the Blu-ray because I mean, when I watched the show, yeah, you'll still see the Desilu.
Do you?
Yeah, I just don't remember. It might be there. I know they have the CBS television, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it says Desilu or not on the Blu-rays.
Now I can't remember on say Mission Impossible, but
well, I don't think they actually did the whole run of Mission
well,
Impossible. I think it came at the end, and they only did like the first couple of seasons. But
and now there's a guy, an idiot, who thinks that he can use the Desilu name, and he wants to start a production company. And CBS, he went and filed for the trademark on it, and they gave him the trademark and everything else. CBS knew nothing until this guy started to try to use it, and they're like, wait a minute, what are you doing? You can't do that, this is ours, But he's saying now that CBS is letting the legacy die because they're not allowing Desilu Productions to go on. To me, I think it's crazy.
That is crazy.
He tried to approach Lucy, the daughter, and CBS got a hold of her and was like, look, this guy's crazy. Don't work with him. If he's offering you money, we will too. Just let him go away. Let him sue us, let him lose, and he'll go away,
Right, because he will.
Yeah, he is suing.
He will lose.
Yep. Big time. Well, because like I said, if nothing else, I Love Lucy is still printed with the Desilu Productions on it. You can't step in and take credit for years of somebody else's work and life. I mean,
right. And the deal
CEO,
is, if they're still
actress,
using that, if they're still using that logo, then that means the company has to exist some way or other.
Right.
I mean, it may be buried somewhere in CBS television now, but it's there.
If not in name alone.
It
yeah.
exists, right?
Yeah.
It's a legal entity somehow. It's got to be.
It's got to be. I'm surprised he got past the trademark on it.
I kind of am too.
I can't go down and trademark Kylie Jenner. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. I tried to get Billy Joel, but that didn't work. I was too late.
Too late.
Was he in the New York state of mind when you talked to him?
He was under a lot of pressure. I know that.
Ah, okay.
Oh, man.
And on that unfortunate note, we are going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. And we're back. It is time for our weekly picks, and leading off is Les.
My first pick comes from Wayne Allen Herald Productions. This is The Selfish Giant and Other Stories. It's an oversized hardcover that has 6 classic Oscar Wilde fairy tales adapted by P. Craig Russell. You have the title of the book, The Selfish Giant, The Star Child, The Young King, The Remarkable Rocket, The Devoted Friend, and The Nightingale and the Rose. I am not familiar with these stories, but I am familiar with P. Craig Russell. This is why I want this book. This man is such a great artist and has been for several years. He's done a lot of different titles, a lot of different formats. So I'm in on this, and I'm going to pledge myself to it and hope that you folks do the same.
Cool, yeah. Didn't we talk about Oscar Wilde not too long ago?
Yes.
That's awesome. Good timing.
Just within the last couple of weeks. So yeah, that's great timing. Alrighty, I believe Liz, you're next.
All right. For my first pick, they're comparing this to The Wizard of Oz and Dante's Inferno. It's called Cantu, If I Only Had a Heart. These are like, I don't know, they're not like little robot people, but they used to have hearts, but now they don't. Instead of having hearts, they have clocks, and they've all been enslaved, and they're forbidden to love anyone. Well, this little guy falls in love with a little 10 girl, and the enslavers wind up breaking her clock so bad that it can't be repaired or anything. So little Canto, I think that's how you say his name, Canto, goes on this awesome journey to find her a clock to replace her heart, and it's a true love story. It's a cute story, and I really believe this story is for all ages. Young and old both can appreciate it. And it's just one of those little heroes, gonna save the girl he loves. I said it's really cute. I think they collect the 6 issues here that they told the story in. And just a really good, cute little story, little journey he goes on.
Yep, I really enjoyed that one too.
Mm-hmm. To find her heart.
Sounds good. Mike, you're next.
Okie dokie. My first pick is from Darby Pop, which is actually a name I haven't heard much lately, but that's okay. They're still around, obviously, because they're putting out a trade collection of a book called Fake Empire. This is a book, I can't remember exactly when it came out. It had to have been 2 or 3 years ago, so I was a little surprised when I saw it. That's why I wanted to shout it out. But it was a really interesting story involving the fairy court and a straight up murder mystery. So one of the fairies has kind of moved away from the fairy court and become an NYPD cop, a detective, and as she gets called back by the family, as it were, to solve the murder of one of her sisters. And I remember it being a really fun story. Like I said, it's been a little while since I read it, but I enjoyed it then, and I am looking forward to seeing it again.
Yeah, I don't remember this coming out before, and yeah, it was a good stuff. So I'm glad it's coming back out as a trade.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Okay, I am next, and for my first choice, I'm going with a new. Unfortunately, it's a mini-series, but it's a new book from Valiant. It's the return of Quantum and Woody, and you just read the synopsis. It says Quantum and Woody, the world's worst superhero duo in the world, are Earth's last hope against stopping a coalition of mad scientists from destroying the planet. To which I add, God help us. If you have not read Quantum and Woody, highly recommend it. It's such a fun read. Quantum is the hero of the duo, where Woody is just more of the partier, just wants, have a good time and all that. I love all the different series that has been put out featuring these guys. So I am so glad that they're coming back.
Yep, they're a hoot. It's pure craziness. It really is. And I mean that in the best possible way.
Right.
It is crazy fun.
Okay, Liz, Les, you're next.
Why not Liz?
Because you're next, Les.
We're alphabetical.
Oh. My second choice comes from Marvel Comics. This is Fantastic Four, The Coming of Galactus, one of their epic collection books. The reason this one intrigues me is because this takes me back to when I was reading almost all Marvel. And these stories were amazing to me. In this volume, you meet the Frightful Four, the Inhumans, Galactus and the Silver Surfer, among others. And this was a key point to me. You had the Frightful Four, which was the introduction of Madame Medusa, who brought in, who was the Inhuman that stomped a lot? Gargoyle? You also had Dragon Man and Atuma, as well as the Skrulls. So this was probably the early 60s when this collection came out, and that was enough for me. That was fun stuff there, and I'm glad they did collect it as they have, because it's a great read. It's, great Stan Lee and Jack Kirby work.
Yeah, I was about to say purely Kirby greatness there.
Mm-hmm.
Enough said.
Oh, 2/3 of a pun.
All right, Liz, it's your turn.
All right. For my second pick, I'm going with the Bat and the Cat, 80 Years of Romance. This is going to be a hefty 264 hardcover of just their relationship, the ups and downs from the 1940s to the present, almost wedding. It'll cover it all. They have Paul Levitz writing in this, Alan Brennant, Tom King. We've got artists such as Frank Miller, Andy Kubert, Neil Adams, Mitch Gerards. I mean, the list just goes on. Jim Lee. Matter of fact, the cover for this is probably one of my most favorite Jim Lee drawings I've seen. And it's with the bat and the cat. Their heads are together in the rain. Oh, man. It was just powerful image when he did it. I'm so glad they picked that one to do for the hardcover. It just kind of sums up the whole bat and cat. So if you're curious why everybody went at the latest Bat Cat, you can see why. This is a relationship that has been building for 80 years. They haven't always been on the same side, but they've definitely been in each other's lives. So this should be a really good one. Just for the amount of artists that they're cramming into this book is awesome. But I thought for as big as the hardcover was, it's $40, and I didn't really think that was that bad for 80 years of history, So definitely one you need to pick up. It should be a good one. Fill in a lot of gaps for you.
Also, keep your coffee table from floating away. Holy cow.
Right. Well, I'm not familiar with the older stuff, so I thought this would be interesting to see some of the older comics and how they built from that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at another list of, and just the names that are also on here are Len Wein, Doug Minch, obviously Bill Finger,
Mm-hmm.
Darwin Cook, Ed Brubaker, and artists is Tom Mandrake, Jan Duersma, Tim Sale, Sean Phillips, Jerry Robinson, obviously Irv Novick, Joe Staten. I mean, this is literally a who's who. So yeah, this is a pretty impressive. It's a pretty impressive collection. I may need to get this.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds pretty awesome.
So I have to find a print of that picture.
Okay, Mike, you're next.
Alrighty, so my second pick is from Amigo Comics, and I'm picking Barbara the Barbarian, #1. Okay, not gonna lie, the title just sort of grabbed me on this one, but I say what that made me do is it made me stop and read the description, and the description is a sword and sorcery / comedy extravaganza, and I'm already in there. I'm sold. That's all I need. I am curious to see where this is coming from. I am curious to see where it's going. I'm ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this kind of caught my attention too. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
Same here.
Okay, I'm up next, and for my second pick, it's a one-shot from Source Point Press called Paradox. It's written and illustrated by Philip Seavey, and it tells the story of a boy who's racing to prevent a paradox that creates him, but also threatens to destroy reality. Okay, how's that for a synopsis?
That's yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good to me.
You got me. Yep.
So I'm in. I caught that and I was like, okay, that I'm curious to say the least.
That is cool.
Alrighty, and our honorable mention this week is...
The honorable mention comes from Comic Mix. It's Whisper, Volume 1 of an Omnibus. This is the series that Stephen Grant came up with many years ago. This is late 90s, maybe? Or mid-90s, I'm going to say.
I was going to say late 80s, early 90s, somewhere around, but maybe mid-90s, yeah. Somewhere around there, yeah.
But this is about a young girl who was trained by her Japanese stepfather in martial arts. This training saved her life when she became a target, and she decided to take a mask and become a superhero. She learned that the world needs heroes, but they're not the kind you see in comic books. You have Stephen Grant as a writer. Some of the illustrators are John Nyberg, Norm Brayfogle, and Rich Larson. So this is on my radar because I do remember this series and what I enjoyed from it. So I'm going to try it out.
Yep, sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, this is early Brayfogle. This is before his run on Detective and Batman. So, yeah. I remember encountering some of these books back in the day, and it's nice that this is being collected and these stories are not lost. So, very cool. Alrighty. Any special shout-outs or mentions this week?
No.
Not here.
Okay, we'll go ahead to our regular shout-outs. First, we want to thank Pop Goes the Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be part of a great group of fellow podcasters. Please check them out. There will be a link in our show notes. And we also want you to check out the fine people who make up Podern Family on Twitter. Definitely check out some of their shows. The easiest way to do that is to go to Twitter and do a search #PodernFamily and just scroll through, and whatever catches your attention, click on that link, download that episode, and knock yourselves out. Hopefully you found something good. I'm sure you have. Would you appreciate them spreading the word of the fellowship? I also want to thank Maddie the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. We'll have a link in our show notes for you to check out their fine music. Thank you guys for your support as always. And finally, you, dear listener, I thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We appreciate your support as always. We value your feedback. Comment, questions, suggestions, complaints, observations, what have you. Please send them our way. There are several ways you can do that. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or you can go to the website and click on the About Us tab, and there's a contact form that you may fill out there if you like. I already mentioned earlier that we do have a Facebook page, The Fellowship of the Geeks. Feel free to follow us there. And obviously we have a Twitter account, @FellowshipGeeks. If you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, please do. Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And wherever you download and listen to our podcast, if you would take a couple of minutes to rate and review our show, it would be greatly appreciated. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you once again for downloading and listening to us today. We do appreciate your support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook @The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter @FellowshipGeeks. Until next time,